So in this 2-bedroom house, I'm making about £1,200 per month in average. So I'm thinking, maybe I need to focus my energy in this strategy. I've got the HMO properties that gives me steady recurring income every single month. So at that point then, my monthly income went from £10,630 to £13,000. Hey guys, it's Rahim. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, smash the subscribe button because I talk about property investment, personal development, and how to gain financial freedom. In this video, I'm going to share with you something that's very close to my heart. There's so many people asking me about how I start my property investment journey, whether I was spoon-fed or whether I had lots of money to start my property investment journey. So I'm super excited to share my journey on how I started my property investment journey, not just to boast or bluff or brag about it, only to inspire you to learn how you could perhaps replicate what I did to use property as a vehicle to get you a little bit closer to financial freedom. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit of what I used to do before I become a property investor, and then eventually talk you through the figures so you can see how I was able to use these figures to get me to become a property millionaire in a very short period of time. So let me tell you a story. It was 2015. I moved to Cardiff accidentally. I knew there was Wales, but I did not know there's a place called Cardiff. So the only way I knew where Cardiff was is when my employer back then where I was working in the city in London, decided to migrate my department to Brussels. So I had two options, either to move to Brussels or move to Cardiff. So obviously back then I was persuaded to start doing my SEMA, hoping that I can earn a bit more money. So I decided not to move to Brussels. One, because it's a French country. Secondly, I did not know anybody in Brussels. I said to myself, well, Cardiff is in the UK, so I've got friends and family around, so perhaps it will be the same as London. So obviously that's how I got shipped to Cardiff and started working. It's in a very small town, very close to Cardiff, called Caerphilly. I used to go there almost 5 to 6 days a week, working long hours. And but really what triggers me to start my investment journey is one morning I woke up and thought to myself, if I got ill, I got run by a boss, or I had children, one of my children got ill, the company may look after me for a couple of months, and then after that I'm on my own basically. And at that point I was only making money when I work. So that was my trigger moment. That was one of the moments I realized I'm not happy at work. I'm working long hours. I'm undervalued and underappreciated, going nowhere. And at the same time, I'm only making money when I work. So at that point, I was doing whatever the company asked me to do because obviously my life depends on that. But that epiphany moment is really what gets me to start thinking about how I can take my financial situation into my own hands instead of relying on the government or on my employers. So I started looking into different sort of things. I looked at Forex, I looked at trading stock and shares, I looked at trading commodities online, and then I looked into properties. And then I get baffled because I was told I needed ridiculous amount of money to start my investment journey. I was told one day, I remember a gentleman told me, oh, you need about £100,000 to start your property investment journey. And some people said 200,000. I had all these figures. So that really stopped me. It created a barrier for me to start my investment journey because I thought it is the absolute truth. I need money. So I started saving. Funny enough, I was saving about £100 a month. I started doing the figures. It would have taken me 20 to 25 years or maybe 30 years even to get £50,000. So it was a really, really tough battle. And I'm thinking, wow, this property thing is not for me. But obviously I bumped into a video. I saw that video that said you can take control of properties without owning them. So literally that was music to my ears. So I literally went looking for it, searching about it, educating myself about it. You know, slowly I get to learn the way things works. And started to have my first property, second property, and so on. So really and truly, I don't want to go diving into all the nitty and gritty and what happened behind for me. To cut long story short, basically that's what I did. That's what triggers me to start my property investment journey. So what I'm going to do now, basically, I'm going to reveal what I've never revealed to anyone else out there on how I started my property investment journey, what I started making up to what I was making until I start diversifying and all that stuff. And this will blow your mind away if you really want to know the roadmap and the blueprint I used to start my property investment journey from virtually zero, which I will talk to you about in a minute, to building a multi-million pound property investment portfolio. This video is for you, and I'm honestly, genuinely doing this not to brag, but to inspire you to take the leap of faith and know property could be an opportunity to make money work for you instead of you working for it. So before I take you to the board to walk you through the process, I'm going to give you a little bit of background of how I started with no money down, because there's some people are thinking, how can you start property with no money? That is not true. It's unheard of. It's just a scam. I would be one of the proteges that will tell you I did start with zero of my own money. So you may be thinking, how do I start? So what I did basically, when I start looking at property, by then I was living in a HMO house. That is what we call a house in multiple occupation. I was renting a bedroom in a 12-bedroom house. So I was lucky enough to be living in the same floor where my landlord was. So I start looking into this strategy. So I'm one of those that like to talk about property before I even start investing in property, because I had a vision, I had a dream to invest in property. The only thing that was putting me off is about the hundreds and hundreds of thousands that I was told I needed. So when I start learning about this strategy called rent to rent, and I went and speak to my landlord about it, my landlord was thinking, that is crazy. He said he's been in the property market for over 30 years, but he's never heard about landlord renting a property to me to allow me to rent it on my room by room basis. So he was a bit skeptical about it, to be frank. He said, I don't see how that works. Okay, I was thinking, okay, if you don't see how that works, fair enough. How about if I can get you a property, would you be able to fund it? Would you put the money down? Because he thought it would never happen. He said, look, Rahim, if you can get a property where the landlord would allow you to rent that property room by room basis, I will put all the money in. So I don't mind paying all the money, because he thought it's impossible. He thought nobody in their right senses would give you their houses to rent, i.e. in his eyes, subletting is illegal as well. Okay. So obviously by then I'll do my research, educating myself and all that sort of thing. So now and then catching up with him, he's asking me, Rahim, where's the property? How long is it going? So it took me first month, second month, third month, nothing happened. But the beauty about what I was doing was I did not give up. I did not say this is too hard. It was hard. Imagine looking for one thing for 6 months and you haven't got any. So it was really tough. But at the end of that 6 months, something magic can happen. I saw a property online in Gumtree. Funny enough, I saw the property was a 7-bed, very close to city centre in Cardiff. It's a place just opposite the Principality Stadium, if you know Cardiff. It's a place called Fitzhamon Embankment. So Fitzhamon Embankment is where that property is. If you know Fitzhamon Embankment, is opposite the stadium, and these properties are Victorian houses, and the bedrooms are gigantic, massive bedrooms. So it was a 7-bedroom property. So I met the landlord, and I viewed the property. I asked him about himself, and I said I'm interested in renting his property on a guaranteed rent basis. And I gave him all the things I've learned. Literally, I'll throw everything at him, right? And then he said, okay, if you can guarantee me the rent, why not? So I can literally rent the property to you. I said, okay, fine. That was music to my ears. So we agreed in principle, word of mouth, saying I will take on the property, but I didn't have money back then to invest in that property. So I went to my landlord, the one I was living with. I said, look, I've got the property. Are you ready for it? He was like, no, I don't believe you. I have to speak to the landlord to know exactly whether this is allowed. I said, fine. So I rang the landlord, so say my business partner wants to speak with you. Is it okay for us to organize a meeting so that he will get to meet you in person as well? So the landlord was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm happy to meet you. Actually, I want you to meet my mom as well, because obviously it is a family property. I said, okay, fine. So we booked an appointment. I think it was a Friday night, just after work, and it was about, I think, 7 p.m. It was a bit dark, so we went to the property. I can vividly see mommy sits on the right, the son sits on the left. Literally the left one of the sofas in the middle. So me and my best business partner sat on the middle. Mom isn't there, the son was there. So we sat in. He is so skeptical. I was like, okay, as I introduced him as a business partner. And then obviously I spoke to the landlord, which is the son. I said, yes, this is my business partner. I just wanted to see what we've discussed. If you could just confirm what we've agreed. So obviously I said, obviously we've agreed for me to take on your property on a guaranteed rent basis for a minimum of 2 to 3 years. So I think we've agreed on 3 years. He confirmed that. And then we agreed on price. I think it was about 1,050 back then for the 7-bedroom. So he said, but he needs his rent every single month, and I need to pay £1,050 deposit as well. So we agreed all that. Because I was so excited, I brought the contract with me, right? So I brought the contract with me. I had 2 copies, one for me, one for him. He read the contract. He told his mom. His mom get to know me as well, and obviously then we agree on the price, and we signed the contract. And then the landlord, my landlord I'm living with, then said, you know what? I'm happy to pay. And then he then asked for the bank details, and then we went home. He paid the rent and deposit. But before we went home, he asked a question. He asked that landlord, that son, why did he decide to take on guaranteed rent? Because it was just for him. It just doesn't make sense. And that gentleman said to him, basically, look, I've inherited this property. It's a 7-bedroom house. Since I've inherited it, I've never been able to rent it fully. The reason I'm not able to rent it fully because I'm working as a biochemist. I'm really, really busy. I haven't got time to manage this property or get to do the viewings. So Rahim then turns up and told me he can provide me a guaranteed rent, whether he rent the property or not. So to me, it's a good deal to me because obviously I don't need to worry about tenants anymore. I don't need to worry about repairs. So whatever he pays me is what we get. And at the end of the day, I'm so busy, I do not have time to manage the property. So that's the reason why I hand the property over to Rahim. So for him then, that was a surprising. You know, he thinks everyone who's got a property should be able to manage it or give it to an agent to manage, so to speak. But for that instance, well, the gentleman handed the property over to us. So what then happens when we took on the property? We realized that the property got another 2 reception rooms, massive reception rooms, and another bedroom, which is a single bedroom. So what I did, because I've educated myself at that point, is to work with the council to see if we can convert that property into a 9-bedroom instead, because obviously the kitchen is huge, the kitchen is massive. So what we did basically, we then converted the 2 rooms downstairs, the 2 sitting rooms downstairs as bedrooms, and then the other room as another bedroom, and then we have this massive kitchen dining area. We set that up nicely. We had TV on the wall, we have sofas, we set it up really, really nice. And then we end up renting that property as a 9-bedroom HMO. So in essence, that's how I started. But what I'd like to do now basically is to walk you through the figures in order for you to understand how much I was making on that property and how I was able to continue joint venture with my landlord, to be able to start from there to building what I've built today. So let's jump onto the board. Okay, so that bedroom, that 7-bed house, okay, converted into 9 beds. Okay, we converted that into 9-bed, and that property, that 9-bed generated us about £3,500 per calendar month, renting the property room by room basis. So that property, because we secured it for significantly below market rent, our profit in that property was £1,900. So that £1,900 was our net profit. So from that, I had 50% of it. So 50% of that amount was £950. My first property generated me £950. So doing this does 2 things to me. One, it proved the concept worked. And secondly, it engraved belief in me to say that I can literally replicate this process. I can do this process with that backing. Now I've got £950 coming to my account without doing anything after we rented the property. And then obviously I've got my salary coming into me at that point as well. So what I then did at that point, I did not go spending that money. So what I did, I saved my share for 6 months. That then gives me £5,700. Okay, so saving that £950 every month for 6 months, that gives me £5,700. So what we then did, basically, we went on and get another property. That then becomes our second property. So I got my second rent-to-rent, right? Again, this property, it's a 7-bedroom house. It's in a place called Column Road. I remember all this property. Column Road, very close to the university. So that property was generated us about £610 every single month. So my share, again, 50%. That then gives me £305. So I was making £305 from that property. So if you add the £305 to the 950, my monthly income started to creep up. So then my monthly income becomes £1,255. So it started to creep. So what we then did at that point, we went on again to get our third rent-to-rent property. Okay? And that rent-to-rent property generated us £450 per calendar month. And again, my share for that was £225. That then increased my income to £1,480. Bearing in mind, I was working at that time as well. And I've not included any of the savings I was making from my salary. So once I start making that £1,400 and I'm partnering with my landlord in these properties, and then I thought, you know what, I've got enough money now so I can go on my own. So I sat with my landlord. I spoke to my landlord. I said, look, thank you so much for working with me. I think we've got a different vision, because he had a different vision to me. I wanted to go really, really big, and he wanted to stay under the radar. So he was kind of happy with what he had, because that's how he is like all the time. So he's kind of about to retire as well. He wasn't that as ambitious as I am. So obviously I went on my own. I was able then to rack up 15 rent-to-rent. So I was able to rack up this 15 rent-to-rent. So each of these rent-to-rent were generating me £450 per calendar month. So if you times that by 15, that was £6,750. So at this point, with this 15-hour rent-to-rent, I was making £6,700 per calendar month. So basically then, so we've got 6,750 plus the £1,480 I'm making from my joint venture partner with my landlord. That takes my monthly income to £8,230. So I was making that money every single month from my, how many properties there? 15, 16, 17, 18 properties. Okay, 18 properties at that time. Okay, so those 18 properties were generating me £8,230. Now I know this strategy, and this strategy makes me steady recurring income. I then started to think about another strategy, because what I did, basically, I focused on this strategy. The reason why I focused on this strategy is because, one, it was the lowest hanging fruit. And secondly, that's what I wanted to focus my energy at, because I learned something from watching Bill Gates, one of Bill Gates' interview, where they asked him what was the reason why he's very, very successful. He said, because he's focused. Whatever he do is focused in one thing. So obviously I take that, hold it, own it, and then obviously replicated that. I focus on that strategy. Now I know I'm very good at that strategy, and everybody know me about that strategy. I took this strategy a little bit further. So my income at that point is £8,230. Okay, that was my income. So what I did, basically, because now I specialize on doing this rent-to-rent thing, right, as a HMO property, then I heard about a strategy called rent to serviced accommodation. This is the process by which you rent the property. Instead of renting it room by room, you rent it as a serviced accommodation, where people that goes on events, families, will stay overnight, and then they pay you on a nightly basis. So basically, it's like, it is Airbnb basically. So instead of renting the property, I was using the properties as Airbnb. So from the money I'm already making there, I had enough money then to go around, so I can go and buy more properties. Okay, so what I did at that point is to look for 2 rent to serviced accommodation properties. Right, I looked for these properties, but before I looked into these properties, I went on and educate myself, because I knew when I educate myself in strategies like this, I can only get better. I did not go, so I know rent to rent now, I know rent to HMO. I'm not going to educate myself in that. It's exactly the same thing. No, I went on and educate myself to know and learn how to implement strategies like this. So I was able to secure 2 of these properties, and these properties were generating me about £1,200 each per calendar month in average. So if you times that by 2, that gives me about £2,400. So at that point then, at £2,400, I'm making from these 2 properties. That then takes my monthly income to £10,630. So £10,630. Then I realized, oh, actually, this strategy is a very good strategy, right? I don't have to manage my tenants. I don't have to worry about tenancy. I don't have to worry about eviction. And it actually gives me better return on my investment. Because in my HMO properties, I'm making between £400 to £600. So in this 2-bedroom house, I'm making about £1,200 per month in average. So I'm thinking, maybe I need to focus my energy in this strategy. I've got the HMO properties that gives me steady, recurring income every single month. And then I've got this service that comes in, you know, it fluctuates sometimes, but it makes me of a serious return on my investment. And I liked it. I loved it. So what I then did, I went again and get 2 more. 2 more, and again, in average, they're generating me £1,200 each. So times that by 2, yeah? Times that by 2, here, that gives me another £2,400. So I'm thinking, whoa, this is really, really good. So at that point then, my monthly income went from £10,630 to £13,000. Well, obviously some £30 or something like that. It takes me to £13,000. So what I did at that point, instead of upgrading my life, moving to a nice apartment, buying an expensive car, no, I went the opposite, right? I stayed where I was. Believe me or not, I was in a shared house earning £13,000. I was living in a shared house, me and my wife, saving whatever we've got. So what I did at that point, basically, I times that, I saved it for 6 months, okay? 6 months, I saved that money because I'm thinking now, what is the next strategy to implement? Is this making sense? It was making really, really good sense to me because it's literally, I was earning more than a VP that is working for an investment bank. So I'm thinking, okay, that is a very, very good thing or good position to be in. So what I did, I saved that money for 6 months. So that then gives me £78,200, okay? I'm rounding these figures up, okay? So that then gives me £78,200. So once I've got the £78,200, actually before I got the £78,200, what I was doing at the back end is to learn a strategy called BRR. Okay, I'm going to add another R basically. It's buy, refurbish, refinance, and rent. But that word there, the refinance, is what really, really get me hooked. Okay, the refinance is really what gets me hooked. And then added another R there, what that called recycle. Okay, so again, what I did basically, I looked into strategy, right? And again, educated myself in it. Now I know I've got 78,200. I said, okay, what I'm gonna do now, instead of letting this money sit in the bank doing nothing for me, I said I'm gonna use the BRRR method, the BRRR strategy: buy, refurbish, refinance, recycle, and rent. So I said, okay, I'm going to explore this strategy. So now I know I've got 78,200 in my coffers. I then thought about, okay, what sort of property do I buy in order for me to be able to use that £78,000 wisely? So I realized that, well, with my budget, I can only buy about £100,000 property. So what I did basically, I went in the market, start looking for properties that I can add value to that are under £100,000. So when I get these properties at £100,000, so what I did, because I know I've got that £78,200 to invest, I went out there and looked for properties that are worth £120,000 or so. Okay, these are the sort of properties I was looking for that I can add value to as well, that I can force the value. I was looking for dilapidated houses, vacant houses, and houses that people are all running away from because it requires work. So these are the sort of properties I was looking for. And I remember one day walking to the agent and told the agent, look, if the properties stink of think of me, because these are the sort of properties I like. These are the properties I love doing because I know they give me serious return on my investment based on what I've been taught. I said, fine. So I went on, looked for this property. I think the property I was interested in worth about maybe £115,000. Okay, I negotiated it obviously significantly, as in I was able to buy that property, purchase price at £100,000. So with that £100,000, my deposit, legal, and all the stuff that goes behind it come up to £35,000. So £35,000 is what I've put down to get the £100,000 property, because the bank lent me, as you know, 75% of the £100,000. So I only needed to put 25% down. So the 25% plus all the legal, all the interest, sum up to £35,000. So what I then do, the money that was left over, which was £43,000. So what I did, I used that £43,000 as my refurbishment money. Okay, I used that £43,000 as my refurbishment money. Okay, I used that as my refurbishment money. I renovated the house, bring the property to life. I literally modernized it, paint and decorate, new kitchen, new bathroom, new flooring, new carpet, new boiler. Everything in the property is sparkly new. It looks absolutely amazing. The property looks good. So I forced the value of that property from £100,000 up for about maybe £165,000. Okay, £165,000. So obviously from that £165,000, the bank then lent me 75% of the £165,000. Again, rounding the figures up, which was £124,000. So £124,000. So obviously I paid my £75,000 from the bank. Okay, I paid that money. Actually, you need to be 3 zeros. Okay, I paid the I paid the £75,000, and then obviously I have my renovation cost here, which was £43,000. Okay, that then leaves me with £5,750. So as you can see here, I was able to pay back my loan, right? And then I was able to pay myself back for the renovation works. Okay, and now also I was able to pull all that money out. So at that point, I've got £5,750 left over. So in essence, the only money I left in that deal was about £30,000. So what happened then at that point, right? Because now I've got my £43,000, I went again to buy another property. I went again to buy another property. I went again and buy another property. So basically, I rinse and repeat the process significantly. So I was able to build, from there, I was able to build a multi-million pound property portfolio. Okay, I was able to build a multi-million pound property portfolio from there on. So using these strategies, starting from the rent to service accommodation, moving into buying my own properties, I was able to build a multi-million pound property that generates 6 figures that allow my wife and I to quit our jobs. And I then go and get in my estate agency. I've now got my renovation company, and I love nothing more than helping people like yourself to use the roadmap I use to take you a little bit closer to financial freedom. I've got a question for you. Are you making money whilst you sleep, or you only make money when you work? So if the answer is the latter answer, which is working for money, I would urge you to look into these steps or strategies that can get you a little bit closer to financial independence. Look, if I was able to use this strategy without being the smartest man out there or the smartest guy out there, you could do exactly the same thing. But what I did basically is to get someone to guide me and hold my hands to get me to develop myself, to take me to where I want to go. So by taking one baby step to another baby step, was able to build a multi-million pound property portfolio that generates over 6 figures in the last 7 years. So if you want to learn how to implement strategies like that, how I can hold your hand, work with you in a one-on-one basis, there's a link on this video. Click on that link right now to book yourself for a free, no obligation consultation with one of my specialists and see how I may be able to help you. So I really hope this video has inspired you to take the leap of faith to start and scale your property investment journey. And if you haven't started, perhaps this would be an inspiration for you to plan it now to get you to start your property investment journey. One thing I like to tell, here's the thing, if you take that leap today, you book that strategy call, it will be the best decision you've ever made. Don't leave it to chance. Book that call right now to speak with one of my specialists. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Thank you for listening.